when the director creates a new flight and sends it live, in the background, a new flight report form is created for each of the pilots. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out as a scorer and I'm going to log into WatchMeFly as one of the pilots to show how they're able to submit their flight report forms. So here I'm going to log in as Leslie Nope, who's one of our pilots. And when Leslie lands on the home page after logging in, it detects that they are part of one of the flights. And here we can see the box at the top shows them information about that flight, including a pilot checklist, showing firstly that the pilot, the Balloon Live app has finished tracking. So we have the data. We can see that also because we have the launch and landing positions and times. But we can also see the flight report form information in that she's not submitted one yet. And based on the data in the flight report form, we also see that her markers have not all been dropped. Leslie can then access her flight report form for this flight by clicking on this link here. And this will take her into the flight report form for Flight 1. The form's structured so the first box is the launch information, so they can put the landowner details. And then we have a box for each of the tasks that are part of that flight. And depending on the task, it will ask also if they have dropped all their markers for that task or not. So some tasks, for example, the fly on here is only using a logger mark, so it doesn't ask whether they've dropped a marker or not. And then at the bottom, they have the opportunity to enter their landing details as well as any other remarks they wish. So I'm just going to quickly add some data here. So we'll say took off from Bob Smith's place. We can put in a phone number, so 04122333, Smith Street. And then we're going to put in some estimated results. So if the fly in maybe 5 meters, dropped it at 7 o'clock, dropped her marker. Then maybe 10 meters, 07:15, yes, dropped marker. Judge declared goal, maybe 20 meters, 07:30, yes, drop the marker. And then fly on maybe 40 meters at 08:15. And then maybe another one of 30 meters at 08:30. Then she might say that she landed on the road. Okay, so what Leslie can do then is she can either save that. So if she saves that, it means she can come back later and change things, but it has not been submitted to the officials. But then what she can do is come in and submit that form, which means that it is now being passed on to the scoring team. So if Leslie comes back to the home page now, she can see that she has submitted her flight report form and also her markers have all been dropped. Also, if Leslie wants to go back and see all her other flight report forms, there is a link here under her profile that will take her to the flight report form page that will actually list out any of the flight report forms she has filled out for any event. So this gives her a bit of a record and she can come back and see and review any of those flight report forms. Okay, I'm now logged back in as a scorer, and what we can see now is at the bottom of the page here in the pilot list is the status of all the flight report forms. So we can see those that have been already approved and reviewed. We can see those that are ready, have been submitted by the pilots and are ready for reviewing. We can see those that have not been submitted, and also we can see any that have been reviewed but rejected, so the pilot needs to fix them and resubmit. And here we can see that Leslie has now submitted her flight report form for review. Okay, depending on how you want to operate your reviewing of the flight report forms, you can either simply click on any of the ones that require reviewing, or you can hit the button at the top here that will just take you straight to the next flight report form that requires reviewing. So we're going to do that, and this will take us into Chris Traeger's flight report form review page. Now, something to note here, when you come into a flight report form, it will lock it, which means no other scorers can actually go in and make changes while you're using it. So if I just jump back into that flight page, what we'll see is that this flight report form is now locked by me, and other scorers will see that as well, and they won't be able to make changes while you're making changes. So in here, I'm going to show you a few things that are going on. Firstly, on the left-hand side, we can see who the pilot is. We also give you the information about how long it has taken them to submit their flight report form after they've landed. Some events want to apply penalties if they take too long to submit them. So here we can see it's taken nearly 2 hours for the pilot to submit their flight report form. So you may want to penalise them. We have that information about the checklist of that same as the pilot had. So it shows the flight report form status and also their balloon live data as well as their markers, and also the review information about this particular flight report form. So once you've reviewed it, it will track who's done it, which is yourself, and also the date of when it was reviewed. So on the right-hand side, this gives us all the information about what the pilot has entered into the flight report form, as well as some information about that we've obtained from the balloon live data. So I'm going to walk you down through the list here. So the launch position of Chris, he actually took off on the side of the road, and we can see his launch time and his launch position. So we also can go and review on the map and just double check where he took off from. You can also make remarks. So if you want to add a note for the scorers against their launch site, for example, you might say, this launch site looks good. You're able to do that, and that will save that within the box there. And then as you come down for each of the tasks, it shows you all the task information they've entered, but also it'll just give you some information about the logger marks or the logger goals that they were meant to use. So we can see here that he did not drop logger mark 1 because he obviously dropped a marker. Again, logger mark 2 was not dropped. But then for things such as the fly on, we can see whether the logger mark and the logger goals have been done and their location and time. So you've got all that information there. Again, you can also add remarks to each of the tasks if you wish. And then at the bottom, you have the landing information. So we can see he landed at Phil's place on the River Road, and then also any other remarks that you wish to make or the ones that they've made. So all that information is available, and you can come in here and decide if you are happy with it or not. So in this case, we are. So we're going to click on Approve Flight Report Form. And what that does is that's going to now flagged it as complete. If you then come back in the flight page here, we can see that Chris has now had his approved. You can always come back in here if you want to make some changes or add extra notes, but once it's approved, it's still editable by you. Okay, now the next thing you might want to do is you might want to go in and reject one. So let's go and have a look at Buffy Summers' flight report form, and you can go through, check the information, and here we can note that she hasn't given an estimated result for this minimum distance double drop. You may not want to reject it for this reason, but we're going to say that we do. So what you're able to do is on the box on the left-hand side, you can say, please provide estimated result for task 2, and hit reject. So that's now rejected. You'll need to notify the pilot that they've rejected it. It doesn't notify them automatically. It will flag it on the home page of WatchMeFly that it's rejected, but you may want to send them an email or send them a text message saying, please resubmit it. And again, back in the page here, we can see that that has been rejected. Something else just to highlight is that in some events, the jury may want to get a copy of all the flight report forms to review. So in the left-hand flight navigation menu here, you have the option to print flight report forms. When you open this up, it creates a print-friendly version of each flight report form, all in one page. So this has been designed so that when you do go and print it, it's best to choose landscape, and that will print a couple of flight report forms on each page.